Not fantastic blocking, but it worked out well enough. And then another play here, this is going to be a throw from Tate Forcier to Greg Matthews. Another thing you need to see, and this time they will block because this defensive end, because it's a block, but I'll throw, I'm sorry, but what you're going to see is they're going to fake this zone read run, and the cornerback is going to bite it. Watch the cornerback on the bottom of your screen here. He's going to think run, he's going to bite in, but when he bites in, that leaves Greg Matthews open, so when they fake that, Matthews is able to pick up some yardage because the cornerback's not with him.
And a really interesting thing we talked about, and we're going to talk about again, Peter, here, is that Illinois is pressing the wide receiver, and this long handoff, so to speak, still works. It's because that run sets it up. We're going to see later when Michigan State, Michigan gives them way too big of a cushion. Denard Robinson, a joke, by the way. He does not catch the pass.
This is not actually Denard catching the pass. It is Junior Hemingway. Perhaps, Alex will argue, it will be Denard Robinson in the future, depending on where everything goes. The thing with this play is, again, it's the fake zone read run. So when we see this highlight again, the cornerback covering Junior Hemingway, he'll be at the top of your screen, bites in on it because, again, he thinks it's a run, similar to what happened in the previous play. So Tate Forcier is looking at that cornerback to see what he does, and when he sees that cornerback biting in, he knows that Junior Hemingway will be open, and that's what creates that hole in order to make that pass. And then here, a lot of times, one of the more effective parts of this offense that Rich Rodriguez has installed is the bubble screen, but when people expect it, they're going to come biting in. So you can fake the bubble screen, which is what they do here. They set up those three wide receivers on that one side, which is typically what it is for the bubble screen. You see the two cornerbacks and the linebacker biting in, looking for that pass to Roy Roundtree, the guy in the flat. But when everyone goes there, the two wide receivers who go out are wide open because the cornerbacks have totally bit in. So they've got all the room in the world. Tate has two options to throw, both fantastic, and you get 20 yards on this play because the cornerbacks are just not with the receivers at all.
Yeah, and actually, if Mooseman hadn't completely muffed his block on that play, Tate would have had more time to let that play develop. Koger would have continued to run his post route, Hemingway down the sideline. The safety would have had to chosen. It would have been about a 50-yard touchdown. But anyway, so you saw some plays that the offense did well. There, of course, hasn't always worked well, but you can see Rich Rod's evil genius offensive mind kind of at play there. But of course, speaking of just evil, we can move to the defensive side of the ball. And Peter, take it away. Tell us what's happening in these plays that you chose.
Well, this first play is actually a good play. This is at the end of the Notre Dame game when I think everybody's expecting Charlie Weiss to run the ball because that would make sense. He just won the clock out. But no, it's a pass. Oh my goodness. Look this is a safety blitz. Pretty simple play. All the coverage people are just on man coverage. You can see that the far side defensive end is actually standing up like a linebacker would. He's not in a three-point stance. And we see the snap. Look how all four receivers are very well covered, extremely tight. And Donovan Warren just does an incredible job, almost intercepts a pass. And Jordan Kovacs is there to provide moral support.
Well, yeah, then that's an interesting point that you make, Peter. That guy that was highlighted in red, he's on the near side, it's Craig Rowe. He's actually a defensive end. It looks like he's a linebacker because, like you said, he's not in a three-point stance. He's in a two-point stance. He's just standing on his 2 feet. But, in fact, he's a defensive end in this 4-3 over that Greg Robinson likes to run, of course, not with a ton of success this season. You can see Stevie Brown in the flat, too, covering a guy playing that linebacker.
Very well covered all around. And you were arguing for pass interference a bit here, Alex, but I think it's very good coverage. And as you remember, defensive players have as much right to the balls as offensive players. Anyways, here we go to the Iowa Hawkeyes game. This was a controversial 3rd and 23 call where you just see some terrible coverage by Mike Williams, who's just circled right there. Slot receiver Marvin McNutt just runs right up the middle. It seems like, and Donovan Warren actually provides pretty good coverage with no safety support. But Mike Williams, watch this here. Let's see Marvin McNutt, backpedal, and he's not really covering anybody, and Marvin McNutt just runs right by him, and you wonder, what are you doing? There's nobody in your vicinity besides Marvin McNutt. Cover him. It's just completely inexplicable. Here we go to a bubble screen against the Spartans. Look how far back the cornerbacks are playing on the bottom side of the screen, at least 10 yards off, or 7 or 8 yards off. And at the snap, they actually backpedal, giving the Spartans even more space to run this bubble screen.
They're so worried about the safeties getting torched deep that you have to give them a cushion.
So the safeties, the cornerbacks backpedal. Blair White provides a great block, and B.J. Cunningham just has a ton of time and space to make the play. And you're wondering if he could even gone a lot further if the coverage was just a bit poor.
Then here's a fake bubble screen where Cousins, fakes to the top side of the screen, actually pitches it to Winstrom on the lower side of the screen, and that's Kovacs right there, runs himself out of the play, reading the bubble screen.
The second.
And then Kovacs, there he is, a little bit late on that one. And of course, that's some great offense, great adjustment that Michigan State made at halftime.
Well, here's just a complete mismatch. Obi Aze is on the Penn State tight end, Andrew Quarles. And he just runs right by him. Obi Aze never really turns around to see the ball. He's never in any position to block this pass. But you're wondering, there's Jordan Kovacs running after them. He should be providing support there, but instead, he's looking at the 2 wide receivers right there on his side. And look what the wide receivers do on this play. They just run little 5-yard curls, and Kovacs, despite that they're both well covered, bites on that. And Quarles goes by Aze and Kovacs right into the end zone.
And there you go. That's how you spell death in defense in football. And of course, I at least hate to dwell on the negative, but you saw over and over again in the plays you picked out, Peter, safeties blowing their assignments. They're in the position. So I guess the question becomes: is this Greg Robinson's fault? Do you think he doesn't tell them?
There does seem to be a problem. You have a walk-on Jordan Kovacs and a very highly rated recruit in Mike Williams. And they just seem to have a lack of spatial awareness of where they are in the field and who they should cover. And I would put that up to coaching, because there has to be better communication between the players on the field as to who they should cover and where they should be covering on the field.
Well, and then just moving it back to offense for a second, Scott. Was there anything that you saw in looking at these plays that seemed to shed light on why the offense tends to peter out in the second half? Or do you think other teams are just adjusting to the wrinkles that Michigan does put out there?
Well, it's interesting that you start talking about the wrinkles, because when you look at these plays, the main reason that I would argue that they were most successful is because there's these new wrinkles of things that you didn't see. You think back to the fantastic Bo Schembechler days, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Michigan wasn't trying to fool you, they were trying to be better than you. And when you look at the plays that I picked out, the ones that worked a lot of times, it's just because they're doing, the fake handoff to get the cornerbacks to bite so that you have a guy to get open. It would be a lot more convenient if Michigan could get 10 yards because they had fantastic blocking, a great quarterback, and precise route running. But that when you look at these plays, that was not the case, and that's something that is a little interesting, because you can't trick people 50 times a game. You can only throw a couple wrinkles in there that can really fool them.
Overarching theme of the show: Michigan football is no longer Michigan football. We have, the Big Ten, it seems, also is no longer the Big Ten. Let's take a look at what happened this past weekend, guys. When you take a look at our Big Ten standings, of course, number 10 and number 15 matchup, Ohio State and Iowa. I know, Peter, you are so willing to bite your teeth into that game. You're just chomping at the bit. But hold on, let's see what else would happen. Penn State, Northwestern, Michigan State, Minnesota win. Minnesota barely beats South Dakota State, excuse me. Oh no, I mixed up North and South Dakota. The horror. Of course, what's noteworthy here is Michigan State's narrow win over Purdue makes them bowl eligible for the second year in a row. And of course, as the standings will roll over here,
Ooh.
Tied for last in the Big Ten right now.
At least we win the heads-up match there against Indiana. So.
The tiebreaker. We hold the tiebreaker over the worst team in the Big Ten. At least we got that going for us.